Uncle Sonny, a.k.a. the Sun Man.
Son, man.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, buddy. Hanging in there.
Yeah.
Got some French press here.
Excellent. So what's what, Frank?
We're under construction.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
we're
like
under
it.
construction. I brought a few friends with me today.
Yeah,
Don't
I
let
see.
it distract you. You know what I mean? You want to hold that? We'll grab the... Nice.
Perfect.
I think we got hazelnut, right?
Smells delish. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
So what's what? I've been veering off the topics. And again, like I said, I want to veer back to the neighborhood, you know, Little Italy where I grew up. Talk about a couple of incidents that happened when I was younger, you know, coming up and stuff.
Yeah.
One sec, let's see how this is. Nice.
Perfect.
So anyways, mother's side of my family. You got a big family on my mother's side called the Picarillos.
Right.
My mother was real close with her cousin Annette Picarillo's mother, and my mother's mother, my grandmother, were sisters.
Okay.
Okay, so they were like first cousins. So Annette, her last name was Sabentino because she married some guy. Well, I don't think she married him, but she had a kid with a guy. I think they called him Peanuts or something because he had a peanut stand. Everybody in the neighborhood had a nickname back then, right?
Right. Always.
Peanuts. Well, what else? Like,
Oh my goodness.
you could go on and on, right?
Salad, the fruit guy.
Yeah, whoever. Yeah.
Whatever you were associated with.
So and so eggs and this and that, whatever.
Yeah.
They're usually over food or something, right?
It was something to do with food. Yeah.
Or a body part, right? Like so and so the nose, or
Jimmy the Chin.
Let's not say that.
Let's not say that. Right.
So
Sorry
anyways,
about that.
So short to long of the story. Well, not short to long of the story. Annette has a son, Nicky. Called him Nicky Boy. So Nicky Boy, I would say, was maybe like, 5, 6, 7 years younger than me. So I always looked out for him as a kid because of the mother, Plus, he was a good kid. He was always like a real good kid, like go to school, not a troublemaker, not a fighter, just a kid from the neighborhood. At that time, we had pagers and beepers and stuff, right? There was no cell phones.
I remember. Yeah.
So I used to hang out. We used to hang out, all through Spring Street. I used to hang out in a club on Spring and Mulberry. My cousin owned that club, Alex Morelli. They called him Black Alex. He was a maid guy with the Genovese family.
Another nickname.
There we go, another nickname. We'll get into that. That's a whole different episode. But around the corner, which is Spring and Mott Street, us and all kids from the neighborhood, we all hung out in that corner because a lot of the neighborhood moved into this one tenement apartment building called 21 Spring.
Okay.
So from all the buildings and stuff, everybody condensed into this brand new, it's still there today, right? So anyway, I'm on the corner. Annette, Nicky Boy's mother, comes running down with tears in her eyes. She's going, they got my son by his girl's house. They're getting ready to beat him up. I said, oh, calm down, right?
So they got him trapped over in this apartment
They got
building
him
or
hostage,
tenement,
yeah.
whatever you want to call it at that time.
Back then, every neighbor was very territorial. Okay? We really had predominantly 3 neighborhoods growing up. We had the 6th Ward, which was Little Italy, my neighborhood.
Yep.
We had the 4th Ward, which was Cherry Street, Monroe Street, Madison Street. It was like a tiny neighborhood down there by the fish market.
Okay.
And then you had the West Side, they called it, which was the Village. And then there was another Italian neighborhood, but it was really not Italian anymore because it really got diminished down to only a few people. So it really wasn't on the map, but it was some kids that came from there. It was a street like on First Avenue and like 10th Street, 11th Street, 12th Street.
Yep.
There was no name for the neighborhood. It was just a couple of cafes left there. And it really wasn't, it was a neighborhood that really didn't count in the world when I was growing up. Right? If you went out with a girl from my neighborhood, right, you would say you were from the West Side.
Yeah.
We would be like, well, what the F are you doing here? Oh, we want to know.
You don't fit in. Yeah. What are you doing?
You want a girl from the West Side? What are you doing here? Like, who do you go out with? Why are you going out with her? Nobody minded their business when it came to that.
Right. That's right. Yep.
Anyways, we have some nice sandwiches, by the way, huh?
Yeah, they were delicious. Glad we got to eat a little. I was getting hungry.
He's dating this girl on First Avenue on 12th Street. He's upstairs. There's like 10 or 12 kids downstairs waiting with hardball bats, chains, knives. They're getting ready to put him in the hospital.
They're going to do him in.
Yeah. So she's got tears in her eyes. She's crying to me. I'm going, Annette, calm down, calm down. She says, by his girl's house. I got to get him out of here. I don't know what to do. You know, single mom.
Yeah.
Terrified.
She's lost at that point. Yeah. No question.
So I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. So I always had a gun on me every day. And I didn't know what to expect, what I was getting myself into. Anyway, there's this kid they used to hang around me. I'll get into him a little bit.
Yeah.
I nicknamed him Joe Bates.
Joe Bates.
Norman Bates from the Bates Motel.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Yeah. Psycho.
But his real nickname was Joey Orange.
Okay.
His name was Joe Corallo. Skinny Joey. His father was Sally Ears. Here we go with the nicknames.
We're right back to the nickname. Sally Ears.
Everybody
Can't
from the
imagine
neighborhood,
why.
Everybody from the neighborhood know what I'm talking about, but this goes into a whole nother story, so
Gotcha.
I'm going to cut it there.
Yeah.
Sally Ears was good friends. Well, not good friends. Well, yeah, I guess say good friends and associated, and he worked for Mark Ryder. Mark Ryder was a Jewish guy. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Name sounds vaguely familiar.
One of the biggest drug deals that ever existed, affiliated with the Mafia, who hung around John Gotti and them. So not to get into all of that. So Sally is his son, who was Joe Corallo, who when he met me, he had a nickname called Joey Orange.
Okay.
But I renamed him Joe Bates. So Joe Bates is hanging around. He was always around, right? I says, hey, get in the car, come take a ride with me. You're going to ride. I need somebody to look out for me. I had a 25 Beretta, kept it in my, what do you call that compartment right there?
Console?
Yeah, a little console. 6 shots, 6-shot clip, nothing big. So I told Annette, I says, hey, call your son's girl's house, tell him I'm on the way. When he sees my car, just come down.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, I was driving a Volvo 7 something, they called it.
You drove
series.
a Volvo.
Yeah, Volvo. Yeah. They were nice cars. I never forget, silver or black interior.
Nice car.
What was it, 740?
Okay.
740 Volvo.
Yep.
Yeah. I get Joe Bates, I stick him in the front seat. We go down to that neighborhood. So I pull up. And Mink, he was right. There had to be at least 10 kids there.
Oh, boy.
Hardball bats. I mean, like, what the hell?
They're sending them to the hospital minimum.
Yeah. So I get out of the car. I open the door. His girl is like on the 5th floor. She sticks her head out the window, right? Because I beeped the horn. And I started yelling. I says, hey, send him down, right? So he comes down. And I want to make sure nothing happens to him for him to walk to my car. Well, he's over there. He's looking at me from the front of the building.
Yeah.
I'm standing up with the door open. And I told him, come on. Like this, wave to him. He runs over, gets in the car. I make sure he gets in. That was it.
Now, kids don't do nothing at this point?
Right, they didn't do anything. They didn't make a move on him. But what I should have did was, looking back, I should have never did what I did right after that.
What'd you do then?
Well, I lowered the window down, and I emptied the whole clip towards all the kids that were waiting for.
Oh, my goodness.
So I rolled the window down. I just start shooting. These kids are ducking and running everywhere. I don't know who got hit. If anybody got hit, didn't even care.
Yeah.
Right? Boom, 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 boom. Shots all over the place. We go. I skip a red light at the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Screeched, got out of there. And that was it. He's in the back, this kid. He's almost crying because that's how nervous he is. Joe Bates is laughing. So, anyways, we get back to the neighborhood. I drive him home. Get him out of the car. The mother's waiting for him. It was a whole big dramatic thing.
Yeah.
But while he was in the car, I'm looking at him through the rearview mirror. I'm going, would you shut up? I said, if you don't stop, I said, I'm going to crack in the face.
Sure.
Stop it. So, anyways, drop him off. The mother takes him home. That was it. Now I would say, I'm looking back, I would say, man, I wish I had a cousin like that, right?
Somebody come rescue? Hell yeah.
Which I did.
Yeah.
I did have cousins like that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
One of those, yeah.
So anyway, what happens? A couple of days later, there's a family from the neighborhood that I'm related to that I have nothing but love for. When we talked about cousins and family that you could love unconditional,
Yep. No matter
no matter
what.
what. I know they
Yeah.
can't talk to me.
Yeah. No matter
I'm gonna
what.
try to
You
talk to them, but I don't care. I still love them. You know. Last name was Rago. All right, so the Rago. My grandfather Frankie, my father's father, and his father were first cousins.
Oh, okay.
Because
So,
somehow I think my grandfather's mother was married to a Rago.
okay.
Somehow it
There's a
goes
tight bloodline here.
type bloodline. They're
Yeah.
real cousins. No,
Yep.
like hey,
Yeah.
cuz or stuff.
Like
They're real
everybody's a
cousins.
cousin
Right?
in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Those were a solid family they were. Right? You had the father Tony,
Mm-hmm.
and his wife's name was Gladys. Gladys used to work. I never forget growing up because I grew up with the youngest Rago, Robert Rago,
Okay.
was my cousin. Right?
Okay.
So there's three kids. There's Gregory Rago, was the oldest, the brother.
Yeah.
Then there's his sister Donna Rago, and then Robert Rago. Okay. So the mother I remember as a kid, she used to work in a diner. I think it was called Buffers, or we called it Buffers, whatever it was, right? She worked in a diner that was on Lafayette Street. No, hang on a second. Take that back. It was on Prince Street between Lafayette and Mulberry. So I lived on Lafayette. I lived on Lafayette Street off of Prince. Okay.
Right. I remember that.
So I used to have to walk by Buffers every day back and forth from school. So there's a lot of times on the way home from school, you know, her son, Robert, my cousin,
Yeah.
he would take us in there. We'd go there and eat. And she'd always give us like grilled cheese, French fry, always take care of us, you know? But what a beautiful, I mean, you talk about good souls. I
Good
mean,
family.
the best.
Back then, we had a lot of people who actually went the extra mile to be your family, and it felt good to have them around. Really did.
Sonny, these were the type of people that would open their door to you. They'd open their door, they feed you, sit down, you know, make you always feel at home all the time.
There was a lot of families back then like that. Nowadays, that doesn't exist.
They left their doors open. They lived on Mulberry between Spring and Prince. They lived in the same building as my biological grandfather, Nunzi.
Okay.
Nunzi, where he grew up, and his mother was still there, who would be my great-grandmother, Philomena.
Philomena.
Okay?
Some great old world
This gets to be
names here.
like a whole,
But most Italian families, the cousins, and there's so much intertwining with all of that family stuff. It's amazing, really. Continue.
So to get into the Regos,
Yeah.
that's the type of family you're dealing with. Hardworking people, the father, legit guy, you know, a construction guy or whatever, labor, really earned every penny he had. Just a good, solid family from the neighborhood, you know, not a treacherous bone in their body. So now, Little Rago, right, who we used to call Little Man.
Back to the nicknames.
Because this kid was built, okay, let's say we're like, I don't know, 14, 15 years old. He already had the body of a man already.
Wow.
He was just built like a little brick house, you know? So everybody nicknamed Little Man because he was the strength that this kid had for his age.
Yeah.
And I mean tough. I mean, could fight. I mean, just he had this natural ability, like this strength of a man, you know, like a little man, you know?
At 14.
At 14, 15, 16, his whole life. His whole life growing up. I don't know about today, right?
Yeah.
It probably caught up with him at some point, right? But when we were kids, he was built like, you know, a little man.
Yeah.
You know, so he's called Little Man, right? The brother, Gregory Rago, another solid kid growing up in the neighborhood, tough with his hands, you know, and really pretty much always minded his business, always straight-laced, you know, very good reputation. Didn't fool around with drugs, just a solid kid from the neighborhood, you know. Right. He winds up becoming a main guy with the Cavalcante family. Now, the Cavalcante family is a family from Jersey. They try to make people think they're the Sopranos. It's no.
Well, they assumed that the Sopranos were written after them, didn't they? For a while.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Yeah.
I think with the Sopranos, all the things that they put from the Sopranos was incidents from a lot of families.
It was.
Yeah.
At least what you see is a lot of different families if you know what was going on at that time. But they did use a lot of interesting stuff there.
How he gets made with the Cavalcante family, you would think a kid from Mulberry Street, there's all the 5 families there, Why a Jersey family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question.
Right?
Yeah.
He had this friend, his group of friends were older than me. Like, let's say, I want to say they were like the next generation up.
Okay.
So, you had the older kids, then you were the younger kids, then there's kids younger than you,
Right. Like my generation, then your generation.
Right. He grew up with this kid. Well, I call him a kid because there were kids back then.
Yep.
Louis Consalvo.
Okay.
They call him Louis Eggs. Here we go with another
nickname. There has to be nicknames. I think
Has to
there's
be
an
an Eggs.
unwritten law.
There's got to be somebody named Eggs somewhere, right?
Yeah, it has to be.
And I got that name, Louis Eggs. All these kids grew up together. Louis Eggs, him, Paulie Red, Nicky, this one, that one, all the guys that I know from my neighborhood in that age group, right? Well, Louis Eggs, I guess, Philly Obramo. Philly Obramo married into Louis Eggs' family.
Interesting.
I think he married his sister or vice versa. Philly Obramo was made with the Cavalcante family.
Okay.
That's how Louis Eggs gets in.
Yeah.
Gregory Rego grew up with Louis Eggs. That's how he gets in.
He gets in.
So on and so on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, a lot of times, I don't think Greg or any of them said, well, I want to be a wise guy. We all know that I want to be with the Jersey family.
Yeah,
it just happens organically because you have a friendship to begin with. So you grew up with me, let's say.
Yeah.
I'm with the Lucchese's. So organically,
you wind up with the Lucchese.
You're friends with me, you're going to wind up with the Lucchese's, right? Or vice versa. With Bonanno, same way.
Yeah.
That happens, right? Now, that's just a little bit of the history, how Greg becomes like a made guy with the Cavalcante family, because you would say, why from Mulberry Street, he winds up with all the way in Jersey.
Yeah.
Never hung out in Jersey. Doesn't know anybody from Jersey.
Don't have any business in New Jersey, but
Jersey.
Yeah.
That's how.
Yeah.
Gregory comes to me. At that time, I don't think I was straightened out. I think I was due to be made real close. I forget what year it was, but I don't think I was a made guy then.
What year were you made?
I was made in 91.
Okay.
So what happens? Well, I was made right around there. I gotta think back. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Greg comes to me. He says, "Hey, cuz, did you go by and throw shots at these kids on?"
So now the repercussions from you throwing shots that night.
I says, "Yeah. Why?"
Oh boy.
He goes, "One of them was Johnny D'Amato's grandson or nephew."
Oh boy.
So Johnny D'Amato was the acting boss of the Cavalcante family.
And he wants to know what took place that night now.
So anyway, I told him, I says, yeah. I said, they had our cousin Nicky boy holding hostage.
Yeah.
I went there. I threw shots to get them off. I said, why? What's the problem?
Did you hit someone?
Well, what happened was he said one of the bullets went right,
close.
Through his hair. That's how close it was. Wow. Almost got shot in the head. So I'm just looking at him. I'm going, yeah, I did. I said, this is why.
Yeah.
He says, well, the only reason why he was telling me is because he wants to make sure that, he was speaking on their behalf, like Johnny D'Amato and them, that he wants to make sure it's not a beef that's going to continue. Like,
so
in
it's an isolated incident or not?
Right. Now I'm going to come back and look to really finish him off.
Right. Yeah. Is there more to the story is what they're digging for at this point.
And he wanted to make sure that it would stop there. Right. Mm-hmm. So I gave him my word. I says, no. I said, I got no beef with any kid there whatsoever. The only reason why I went down there is because I got a call. I said, I seen the kid's mother in the street. She came crying to me. I went there to help him. That's it. It ends there.
Right.
I got no beef with Johnny Amato, his nephew, his grandson, this one, that one. I got no beef with any of those kids.
Yeah, there's no meaning behind this other than to protect that kid and get him out of there.
That's why at that time, I tell you, I had no conscience. If I would have shot one, I had 6 bullets, right? If I would have shot 1 or 6, I didn't care. I had to get my cousin out of there.
And thank God nobody took a bullet.
Thank God nobody did get hit.
Yeah.
Close, but didn't get hit. So I'm glad for that. So that was that. I go back. Prince Street heard about it.
Of course.
Because they ran around the corner from Prince Street, because Louis Eggs had a club. Originally, he had a club they started with a club on Mott Street between Houston and Prince.
Okay.
It's like a little closet. That was the club where I told you Johnny Petrocelli,
that's right.
I paged him from there.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
And then Petrocelli called me back. Our lady gets killed.
Yeah.
Detectives, they go to the last number. They go down, they start questioning Louis Eggs and my cousin. Gregory.
Yeah.
So Gregory and Louis A's like, we don't know nothing about it. So they started interrogating them and saying, well, whoever was on this phone is suspect because they didn't catch the guys yet.
Wow.
So Gregory remembered that I was in there for a little while and I went to go see him and I made a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So it's another time Greg came to me. He said, did you make a call out of it? Was that? I says, yeah. I said, it's my friend, Johnny. He said, yeah, the friggin' agents came down here and, But I think back, Gregory, we had a real good relationship, even though he was my older cousin, you know what I mean? He remembers me from a kid going up to his house, going to eating pasta and hanging out with his younger brother, So now what happens? Prince Street finds out. Prince Street tells them, hey, he's with, although my father's there, they said, really, he hangs out in Brooklyn. So I go back to Brooklyn. At that time, gas was just on the lam. It was just going on the lam. I go back to little Georgie Conti.
He's acting, right?
He's acting captain for Georgia Neck.
Right.
I tell him what happened. He said, all right, we'll run it up. He says, I won't worry about it. I said, no, I'm not worried about it. They don't want no problems.
Right.
Word gets back to me from Gas. He said, tell the kid he could shoot anybody he wants out of that crew.
So you got a green light and weren't looking for one.
I got a green light to shoot anybody I wanted in that crew.
Through Gas.
If I wanted to walk up to Johnny Amato and shoot him, go ahead.
Gaspipe says, it's all good. Don't worry about it.
What the, don't worry about it. I'm not worried about it, but I don't want to shoot anybody from there.
That wasn't the whole idea.
I got a cousin there.
Yeah.
You tell him if he has a beef with any of them, walk into any one of their clubs and, I don't want to curse in the chat, just shoot them.
Shoot him. Yeah.
He almost shot that kid.
Typical Gaspipe answer, right?
It was the guy's nephew. He wants to go shoot the uncle? Go ahead. I really didn't want to. Let's put it this way, right? A lot of people, when Louis A's got straightened out, a lot of people never expected that from the neighborhood because he wasn't a guy that was growing up to where you would think like, oh, this guy's going to be a wise guy one day.
Right.
They were contractors. They worked on construction. Yeah. They were in a union. You never thought of them to be like a street guy or like this guy's going to be a made guy, whatever the case is.
Not a typical guy you would see as a made guy down the road. Gotcha.
So I remember when he did become made, people were kind of shocked because they didn't expect it. They just like, well, we never thought that of him.
Right.
And, Louis changed. He was always the same with me. I can't say anything bad about him. A lot of people do have a lot to say about him. They got to say a lot of bad things about him because there's a lack of respect there. They felt like he never deserved it or they never, and plus he had this air about him. When a guy gets a button, he thinks he's...
It could go to your head.
It could go to your head easily.
It's powerful. Power easily. Does that to you.
Especially when you're not used to having respect like that.
Yeah. Different frame of mind.
When you're not used to having respect to begin with, and then you get that instant respect because you got straightened out now, people don't know how to handle it. But if you were getting respect anyways, and now you got straightened out, well, really nothing changes.
Right.
Right?
That makes sense.
But Louis, the dealings that I had with him and a couple times that we spoke, he was always the same with me. So I really got nothing bad to say about him. My cousin, like I said, Gregory, probably never talk to him again because he can't. Like I said, always got that unconditional love for your cousin, cousins. And I'm okay with that.
As you get older, you learn to live like that.
That was the connection that came back to me, right? Well, it wasn't long after that. We used to hang out every weekend at this joint called Stringfellows. Stringfellows was on Park Avenue South off of 21st Street.
Now, this is a nightclub or a bar?
Nightclub.
It's a nightclub. Okay.
And we had
vaguely remember the name, but
we had a great connection in there.
Okay.
We did. We go in there, get treated, cut the line, never had to wait, get in the VIP lounge. It pretty much took over the place. There was a lot of things that happened inside of Stringfellows. I'm just going to key in on this one incident because it leads up to what I'm going to tell you. There was this girl that was known. There's always those girls that are like, they jump from one guy to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Today they're going out with you. Tomorrow they're going out with me. Yeah. Oh, you have nothing to do with Sonny no more? Okay.
No.
Sonny, is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. And she's with me, and then tomorrow she's with somebody else. Yeah, it's all right. And we all know that she likes to date a lot of guys, and nobody cares, right? There was this one girl. beautiful, you know. I don't know how she would look today, but beautiful. Everything about her was beautiful, right? But everybody slept with her.
Mhm.
Doesn't make her a bad girl, you know.
Every neighborhood had a couple of those. They changed partners, we used to call them. Time to change partners.
The problem is a lot of guys get killed over girls like that.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah, those girls can cause some serious issues.
This girl winds up making her way to date Johnny D'Amato, the acting boss of the Jersey Crew.
Okay.
There's a big age difference.
I would imagine.
She's in her 20s. This guy by then's in his 50s.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
He's got money. He's got stature. He's got a position. He's talking with John Gotti every week. This guy was a
powerful man.
Yeah, he was all over the place. Right? According to her, he took her to a swingers club one night, and she had thought that he wanted her to go to the swingers club to watch her have intercourse with
someone.
And he wanted to watch. I don't know what you call that.
Voyeurism.
Voyeurism. That's what she thought. Instead, what it was,
here we go.
He turned out he was bisexual.
Wow.
And I'm going. That's not how they said it on the street. They used a lot of names that, you know.
Yeah, were popular back then.
They say I can't say on the podcast.
Yeah, that's names that we don't use today in today's society.
Let's just say his sexual preference were men and women.
Okay.
Okay. Now, as a acting boss of a crime family, you can't do that in public
and let people know about it, especially a younger person that you're allegedly dating.
She told one guy, another guy.
So now this is getting...
Because she was sleeping behind his back.
Of course.
So this word's getting out.
Yeah.
No, it got back to us. Got back to the Genovese family. She was going with a guy in the Genovese family.
Wow.
Tough Tony. Tough Tony used to come into Stringfellows and hang out. She told him. She told a guy in our family. She told, telling everybody.
Yeah.
So word gets out. I think Gas had a lot to do with pressing it because Gas was pissed off that they were making guys from New York. In other words, if you're a Jersey family,
it's okay to pick from Jersey.
Should come from Jersey. Right. Stop going into Brooklyn, stop going here, there, and trying to recruit guys from the city. So I think he was influential with that. As a matter of fact, I know he was. Yeah. You know, word comes down. I guess the New York families got together, went to Jersey, the Gavicantes, and said, "Hey, if you want to be recognized anymore, or if you want to whatever,
right,
he's got to go. You can't have a boss walking around. That's gay."
Yeah.
So they banged him out.
Mm.
Anthony Capo.
The Capo kid,
You know Capo.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Anthony Capo was a good kid from Brooklyn. Ballsy kid. He passed away since in the program. We happen to be good friends with his brother.
His brother.
Anthony Capo, they get together with a few guys and they shoot him in the back of the head. They get rid of him. And I think that whole thing in The Sopranos, you know that, what's that? What was that whole, Vito?
Yeah, where he went down to Lower Manhattan, he went to the gay club. But back then, what was it called? Can I say the name? I think it was called the Anvil back then.
I got no idea.
Yeah, but I think people had saw him in that club, kind of similar situation as what you're referring to in The Sopranos.
So a lot of people have told me, and I believe too, that whole Soprano story.
That segment of that.
Segment of that where he turned up gay, they caught him.
And then they
wanted to kill him, and they finally did kill him.
Yeah.
All came from...
That story resonated from that.
Obviously they embellished a lot.
Of course.
And, movies, entertainment, and all other stuff.
That's what they do.
I think since that happened, that actor ruined his whole career.
Yeah, we don't see much of him. You still see a lot of the other Sopranos, the guy who played Christopher is out there all the time, and several others,
He gets killed. So they cleaned up, they had a big black guy on there. It was like a huge embarrassment for them. And they cleaned it up. Later on, Anthony Rotunda,
mm-hmm.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right. His son was straightened out with them, who, again, another one who cooperated, went to the program. His father was clipped.
Really?
They didn't know who did it. He was walking his dog, or he was walking with some galama in his hand. He had whatever. Somebody walked up and they popped him. Most recently, it came out, but I was told, even back then when it hit the newspaper, that they said we did that. We meaning Lucchese family.
Right.
I didn't ask who, what, when, where.
Who gave the order or anything? It just happened.
But I figured, hey, we were going around sneaking everybody.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, it's a gas thing, it's this thing, it's whatever it is. No, it's above my pay grade at that time.
Right, at that time, yeah.
There wasn't that much respect for the Jersey family.
Well, they had to lose a lot of credibility with all of that stuff going on at that time.
I mean, I remember when there was a beef, right? There was a beef with guys that were with us on Staten Island. They were going around, they were shaking down like Joker Poker places. Remember the Joker Poker machines?
I do. Everybody had a couple of Joker Pokers in the club.
Right, so I guess somebody from the Gigante family told the guy, you're with us. Our associates went in there and said, no, you're with us, And this guy's getting beat up by both sides. And he's getting robbed from the machines. I mean, the guy got tortured.
He's in a place he should never be.
Anyway, he got to the point where there had to be a sit-down.
Okay.
So who did they send? Richie Pagarulo, which we used to call the Toop. Not a nickname.
I can imagine why.
Because he wore toupee, right?
Yeah. All right.
Richie Toop was a captain with us. I got to do a whole episode on this guy because, I mean, I got along with him, but the guy was a maniac.
Really?
I mean, he was one of our psychopathic killers that we had.
Everybody has a purpose, right?
He just loved it. He enjoyed it. He loved it. Always volunteering, with his hand
First
up.
to go.
Yeah.
Send me.
Always trying to get in on a piece of work.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I guess at some point we were all like that at one point, right? I was told, go with Richie Toop. I was just made.
Okay.
I was maybe a month fresh, right? And we go have a meeting in Cross Bay Boulevard in Queens. And we meet with the Jersey crew. Anthony Rotunda came with somebody else. Now, there was a ruling, I don't know if it still stands today, if two New York families side together, the Jersey family automatically loses.
Yeah, I get it.
We had an alliance on this certain spot in Staten Island with the Bananos. What was with Eddie Leno, Frankie Leno, not Frankie Leno, Eddie, no, hang on a second. No, Frankie Leno, there's a lot of Lenos.
Yep.
Frankie Leno and Evan you, I think, right? So we formed an alliance with him just on this particular store or block in Staten Island. And then the Bananos said, yeah, we're with you on this. Jersey don't belong there. We'll back it up, get them out. So we went to the sit down. Me and Richie are standing there. And I think they purposely sent me because of, you knew I had a cousin in the crew.
Yeah.
And they knew the whole history with the whole thing. Because out of everybody, why are you sending me? Yeah. I wasn't even in Richie's crew.
Right.
Like Richie wasn't even my captain, but I went with him.
Picked for the reason.
Yeah, picked for a reason.
Yeah.
I go there, and Richie always carried a little purse. Remember the days where he carried like a little?
I had
he carried like a little leather bag.
It actually held my 25 Beretta. I had a little man bag, we used to call them.
The man bag.
And it had a little holster in there that held my Beretta. And that's how I walked around the city with my man bag.
There you go.
So I had one.
You know what I'm talking
familiar
about.
with it, yeah.
I didn't carry one.
It held a gun.
Yeah.
That's why I used it.
Well, that was Richie. Richie always had his little leather bag on him, like a little man bag.
Yeah, that's what we called them back then.
Here's how crazy Richie is. We're meeting in a diner. We're going to sit down. I said, Rich, you foresee a problem? Oh, no, don't worry about it. So he had his little bag.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry about it. So I'll shoot them at the table. I said, here
we go.
We'll see the way this is going to go.
Yeah.
In broad daylight in a diner.
Calm.
Yeah. So anyway, we sat down and they didn't like to hear what we had to say because Richie laid down the law and just said, look, because Anthony Rotunda was a captain too. He said, listen, and they're putting the beef in. They're going, you know what so-and-so said about us? Because our guys were going in there.
Right.
And they were saying bad things about them. We had these two kids with us. Well, not kids, they're men. A kid, Frankie DiPietro.
Mm-hmm.
We nicknamed him Skip. And then Mikey Bloom was his brother-in-law.
Okay.
Good Irish kid.
Yeah.
They were part of the bypass gang where they were stealing banks and, bypassing the alarm system. That's a whole nother story, man. I guess Skip and Bloom were going in there and saying really degrading stuff about the Jersey crew, and they got upset about it. You know what he said about it?
So they're mad at the sit down and they're telling you guys about this
fuming.
at this point. Yeah, they're pissed.
And Richie just said, look, it is what it is. They're with us. You can't do nothing. Stay away from the place. You want to go put a beef in, you could go to Bananos, you could go to them, Joe Messina and them at the time.
Yeah.
And that was it. And they knew that's it. It stopped there. It's dead.
It's done.
It's done. Who comes to me a few days later, not even a week later, Gregory comes to me, my cousin.
Your cousin.
Because he knew I was at the sit down.
Yeah.
I said, cuz I can't do nothing for you with this one. Nothing I could do. I remember who started calling me. It was Anthony Capo. I met with him. He said, I know it's done, but is there anything in your realm that you could do? Or what do you mean in my realm? This is not even in my realm.
It's not.
I don't even know where the store is. I don't even know what happened. I got called there. That's it. It's over.
Yeah.
Plus, you already got it from a skipper.
Right. It's over.
Yeah, it's over.
There's nothing to discuss anymore.
He was trying to do it in and around, maybe something in my realm I could pull off that's,
That was a good question.
Yeah. Worth a try.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to Little Rago, Little Man.
Mm-hmm. Little Man.
Right? Little Man was just a tough kid. It's a shame. He liked to drink a little bit, he liked to party a little bit, His old man, I remember, used to come around looking for him and stuff, But he never really, he was just a solid, a good kid. If he would have kept his head straight, well, from what I hear, and I see on Facebook and social media and stuff, he did go on to go in the military. He won the military, he served our country.
Nice.
And he has 21 confirmed kills.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Yeah. That's amazing. Technically, that's a hero.
He made up for everything.
Yeah, he went to war and did his bid.
Went to war, did his thing, right? Put his life on the line. 21 confirmed kills. Man's man in my book.
No kidding. That gets medals.
Want to go have another drink? Go ahead.
Yeah. God bless you.
God bless.
After what you went through, you deserve a couple of drinks, you tell him, right?
He does. I tell you what, though. If you got a guy like Louis Higgs or a guy like this, they might have looked down upon him because, the kid did like to drink. And he'd like to have a party here and there.
Right.
But you know what? He could take any one of those guys in that crew. I got my money on Little Man.
Yeah.
Look, hands, no hands, nothing. I'm telling you.
He's just a tough character.
This kid's a tough, yeah. And I don't say that about too many people.
Yeah. You don't. I noticed that.
You know that.
Yeah.
He could bend Louis Higgs in half.
Wow.
I'm telling you, any wise guy, most of the wise guys in that crew, not only that crew, a lot of crews. And he's got balls. He doesn't care. Doesn't care about all of that.
So here we are again, getting ready to go.
It's that time.
It is. It's been a good session. Enjoyed this our chat today. I think so.
Well, maybe we'll go to Ramonelli's next week.
Yeah, let's do that. That'll be a blast. Yeah, yeah.
Should we take Chucky and Teddy?
We'll take Chucky and Teddy with us. That'll be amusing. Then everybody will want to talk to us, or at least them, maybe.
Or not talk to us.
But I'll see you when I see you, my brother.
See you when I see you.